Hey guys, Matt Ziga here, EOS Implementer. In this video, I'm going to share with you some tips on how to prepare and how to have a great EOS quarterly conversation with your direct reports. And so the quarterly conversation, as Adam Grant would refer to it, is a stay interview, right? Too often, an employee is leaving and we're asking these questions. What could we have done? How could we have gotten better? Was it this? Was it that? Those are the types of conversations you want to be having on a quarterly basis with your team members to check in with them. Now, one point of pushback that I sometimes get around quarterly conversations is, Matt, I talk to my direct reports every day. Why would I need to schedule this quarterly conversation? But the reality is, this conversation is an opportunity to go deeper. It's an opportunity to really, truly have a heartfelt conversation with your direct report, the type of conversation that doesn't happen every day. The service level conversation that happens every day, this is not the conversation we're talking about. This is an opportunity to go deeper. Really, truly at the root, it's an opportunity to build trust, to build rapport, and to improve upon the relationship with you that you have with your team member, your direct report. And so just going to walk you through some tips, some tricks, some things to be thinking about as you prepare for that quarterly conversation. And so this is an opportunity to coach. It's an opportunity to provide feedback. And it's an opportunity to have a two-way conversation with your direct report. And so this is a conversation to really develop your team member and to zoom out during this conversation. So be thinking about carving out about an hour to connect and talk with your direct report. Now, sometimes I get the pushback, Matt, where am I going to get an hour to meet with every single one of my direct reports? And the answer to that is hopefully you don't have any more than 8 direct reports. And if you have 13 weeks in a quarter, that might mean that you're doing one quarterly conversation a week for about a month or two. Where this week on a Friday, I'm gonna grab one of my team members and we're gonna head out for a quarterly conversation, keeping in mind that the quarterly conversation is pre-planned. This isn't something that you just sneak up on one of your team members. And so schedule the quarterly conversation in advance so that you can prepare and so that the person that you're having the quarterly conversation can also prepare for this conversation. The point of the quarterly conversation is substance. It's not just a gesture. And I know that I fell victim to this for a long time when you have to do these performance reviews, right? You just feel like you're checking the box, but you really should be looking at this quarterly conversation as an opportunity to connect and go deeper. One thing that you can think about is preparing for this quarterly conversation with a people analyzer, right? Look at your EOS people analyzer and be reflecting on how is this person doing from a core value standpoint? Plus, minus, minus. How are they doing from a GWC standpoint? It's an opportunity to review the seat that they sit in and to be reflecting on. Do they get it? Do they want it? And do they have the capacity for all 5 of the roles in their seat? And so hopefully that in and of itself gives you some talking points, some things to drill down on in terms of being a right person, in terms of being in the right seat. And so you can also be thinking about their rocks. And so how are they doing with their rocks? Is it a coaching conversation around how they're doing in terms of taking those rocks to the finish line? I always recommend having quarterly conversations sometime mid-quarter so you can check in on that rock and say, listen, I know we've been talking about this rock and we've been saying on track, off track during our level 10s, but this is an opportunity to drill down, right? And say, listen, you got a month and a half to go. What do we need to do to get you on track to make sure that we're going to take this rock to the finish line? Another key point is to take notes for you, but not for the HR file. Ideally, these notes are for you to come back to these notes during the next quarterly conversation, but this isn't something that is going to get logged in the HR file. Also, keep in mind that this is not a performance review. It's an opportunity to connect and to make each other better. There should be feedback and dialogue going both directions. Ideally, you run out to lunch together or you grab a cup of coffee together. Get out of the office. It's ideal that you create an environment where you can have some deeper conversation and it doesn't feel like a stuffy office environment. So, some other things to think about is that the conversation should have depth. Be curious, drill down, be vulnerable with one another. As the leader, as the manager, my recommendation always to be doing 20% of the talking, right? Ask questions, get curious, let them do the talking. If you're doing the most of the talking, that is probably not a great quarterly conversation. So lean into asking questions and listening. So again, two-way conversation, feedback should be going both ways. The overarching theme of the conversation should be what's working and what's not working. One of my favorite questions to ask in a quarterly conversation is what's one thing we should start doing? What's one thing we should stop doing? And what's one thing that we should continue doing? Ask that question both ways. I want that feedback as a leader, as a manager. I'm also going to be prepared to give that feedback as a leader and as a manager. As you wrap up your quarterly conversation, be thinking about the issues that you solved, things that they need to be taking away as a to do. Be thinking about the things that you need to be taking away as a to do. And sometimes there are some things that we just can't solve, right? We're going to agree to say, like, listen, we're not going to address that, or we don't have the bandwidth to address that right now. And as you wrap up that quarterly conversation, a best practice is to always schedule that next quarterly conversation in advance so that it's on the calendar. You can always tweak the date, but this gets you in the cadence of always having the next quarterly conversation. Too often, we can get caught up in working in the business, and 6 months goes by, a year goes by, and you're like, I haven't had a quarterly conversation. So always be getting that next quarterly conversation on the calendar. Lean into it, have fun. It's an opportunity to serve the team members you work with. Make it great. Reach out if I can help.